What if I told you XRP's real value is actually hiding in plain sight, waiting for Ripple's IPO? I know, right? I found something in a financial report that could change how we think about XRP's price if it is true. This wild idea dropped on my lap by a crypto researcher who claimed a financial giant basically hinted that Ripple's true value won't be revealed until Ripple goes public. Now that sounded like a scene straight out of a thriller, right? A secret price tag for XRP locked away until a big IPO moment. Now, I couldn't ignore it. I had to know if this was legit or just another crypto conspiracy, right? So I grabbed my metaphorical detective hat and I started digging. Why would anyone say XRP's real value is hidden? And if it is hidden, where exactly is it? Right? And now in this video, I'm going to be taking you on that investigative journey with me, from decoding a dry corporate report to uncovering what's really going on with XRP right now. So trust me here, it gets very interesting. By the end, I even bounced this theory off some folks in our free Discord server, right? There's a link in the description if you want to join the discussion there. Now, it's an awesome community to geek out on all things crypto and these crypto mysteries just like this one. Now, before we get started, this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, let's go ahead and dive in, no pun intended of course. Here's how it all started. Right, I'm scrolling through X and I see this post from a researcher known as Smoke, you know, the O as a Q. Anyway, he's basically yelling in all caps, SBI says XRP's true value will be revealed after the Ripple IPO. Now immediately I'm like, wait, what? SBI, you know, the big Japanese financial giant, supposedly hinting at a hidden XRP value. Now that is a bit of a head turner. I mean, we've heard some crazy XRP price rumors before, right? But this one had a twist of corporate intrigue. So naturally, I had to investigate. First, we need some context on SBI. Now, SBI Holdings is a huge financial company in Japan and a major partner of Ripple. Now, they've been pro XRP for years. They even launched Japan's first money transfer service using XRP way back in 2021. And they also own about 9% of Ripple, the company itself. So, if anyone closely tied to Ripple's fate, it's going to be SBI, right? Now, they publish financial reports each quarter, and our friend Smoke actually dug up 2 lines from SBI's latest report for the quarter ending in June 30th, 2025, by the way, and it kind of set the rumor mill on fire. Line 1. The SBI, or at least SBI said, that they expect major returns once the value of their 9% Ripple stake becomes clear following an IPO or similar event. Line 2. SBI also said that they're not including the value of Ripple's unlisted shares or the XRP that Ripple holds in escrow on their books until there's a concrete market price, likely through an IPO or some defining event. So, reading that, I got why it made so many waves. Now, on the surface, it sounds like we're gonna make bank when Ripple goes public because, well, then we'll finally know what our Ripple shares and all their XRP are really worth. Now, if you're an XRP holder, your ears probably just perked up, right? Well, does this mean XRP is undervalued right now? Is there really a secret value that will pop after an IPO? Well, these were exactly the questions bouncing around in my head and in the Discord chat, to be honest. So I went straight to the source, the actual SBI report, to see if Smoke's interpretation actually holds some water here. And here's what I found. SBI's statement is really about accounting and valuation rules. Basically, because Ripple is still a private company, SBI cannot assign a precise fair value to their 9% ownership of it. There's no public stock price yet for Ripple, right? The same goes for the XRP that Ripple holds in its escrow. Since Ripple's not publicly traded, there's no official market value to record for those assets either. So once Ripple has an IPO, there'll actually be a public stock price and likely a clearer idea of Ripple's total assets, including its huge XRP stash. Only then will SBI update their balance sheet to reflect what their Ripple stake and indirectly Ripple's XRP holdings are actually worth. Let's think of it like owning a rather rare painting then that's never actually been auctioned before. Now you can guess that it's worth millions, but until it actually sells publicly, you can't be sure or list it on your net worth statement, can you? Now Ripple's IPO would be like that first auction. It establishes a real market value. SBI was basically saying that we're not counting our chickens until they hatch, and the hatch being Ripple's IPO. Now, Smoke took those lines and, well, ran with the idea that XRP's true price is actually being suppressed or will only be revealed or reveal itself post the IPO. It's kind of a spicy take for sure, but let's break it down a bit more logically. Right? SBI is talking about its stake in Ripple, the company. Right? They're excited that when Ripple's stock is traded more openly, that their 9% slice will be worth a lot more than what it was marked at today. Right now, it's basically just on the books as an ordinary investment cost and some conservative valuation, right? Because there's no public price. Now that makes total sense from an investor perspective. They also mention Ripple's escrowed XRP. Now Ripple holds billions of XRP locked up, but SBI isn't saying XRP's price will explode at IPO. What they are saying is that we can't value those XRP on our own books until there is a concrete price, possibly determined by a bigger event like an IPO. So it's the kind of subtle differences there, right? It's more about SBI's balance sheet than it is about XRP's market price. Now, could Ripple going public actually influence XRP's market price? Quite possibly, yes. Right, and here are some reasons why these people think an IPO could unlock value for XRP. First off, transparency. Once Ripple is public, they'll have to spill all of the financial beans. Right? We would see exactly how much XRP they actually hold, how they actually use it, how profitable their business is, and all of that good stuff. With more clarity, big investors might feel more confident about XRP's role in Ripple's success. Ripple's valuation, right? Because if Ripple's stock price shoots up, and everyone knows Ripple is sitting on a trove of XRP, well, people might start doing math like, Ripple is worth $20 billion with X billion XRP in escrow. Maybe the market's undervaluing XRP itself. In other words, Ripple's market cap could actually act like a benchmark, an anchor for XRP's valuation. Then there's institutional access. An IPO means traditional investors can buy Ripple stock, to indirectly get exposure to XRP, since Ripple's success is tied to XRP usage, very much like the Evernorth company that's being formed at the moment. Now, some institutions, they can't or simply won't buy crypto directly, but they would buy a stock. More money flowing in indirectly could actually boost the overall confidence and demand for XRP. So yes, there's a world, I guess, where Ripple going public shines a pretty big spotlight on XRP and maybe even boosts its price. Long-term XRP believers often say real value will come when the big boys, Wall Street institutions, get on in. And an IPO could be that invitation, along with maybe the ETFs and things like that. But SBI's report actually aligns with the view to an extent, doesn't it, right? It's basically saying, we know that there's unrealized value here. We're just waiting for the public to, or at least the market, I should say, to actually recognize it. But, and this is a big but, nowhere did SBI claim that XRP's price is secretly something else right now. They didn't spill some insider info like, psst, XRP should actually be $10, but it isn't. Right? If you read the fine print here, this is a classic corporate speak for we're being patient and we're not speculating on our private holdings value. Smoke's interpretation, while exciting, was stretching the actual text a fair bit. It was an ambiguity, at least an ambiguous attempt, I guess, that he leaned into here, or the ambiguity of it all. Possibly, because it makes for a great narrative, doesn't it? Gets lots of clicks, right? But hey, I can't blame him. I'm in the game too. You've got to get the attention. Now, here is where our story takes a bit of a turn, because while I find that true value reveal at IPO claim was more hype than a solid fact, it did lead me to a rather different realization, right? It's that the XRP community is buzzing with optimism lately, right? And not because some hidden code in an SBI report, but it's actually because of what Ripple has been doing out in the open. You see, a few months back, some people were rather nervous, right? Ripple seemed to be exploring other avenues and other ventures. There was even kind of talk about Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD, possibly taking the spotlight away from XRP. People, they were worried. Right? Is Ripple moving on from XRP? Are we holding bags of a coin that the company itself might actually sideline? But boy, right, the past few weeks, they have flipped that narrative on its head. Just after kind of wrapping up a $1.25 billion acquisition of a firm called Hidden Road, the prime brokerage platform, Ripple's CEO Brad Garlinghouse made a point to say that XRP remains central to Ripple's operations. Right? Let that sink in. Right? Despite spending over $1 billion to expand Ripple's reach in finance, they haven't forgotten about XRP. It's still at the heart of their strategy. That one statement from Brad was like a collective sigh of relief for the community. It's like the CEO of Starbucks confirming coffee will always be on the menu. Well, duh, right? But you still want to hear it. Then came another surprise. Ripple teamed up with Gemini. Yes, the Winklevoss twins, Gemini, right? They to launch a XRP Credit Card nonetheless. Now, I didn't see that one coming. I mean, how cool is it to have a credit card that gives you rewards or cashback in XRP or uses XRP somehow in the payments process? It's more than one sign here, one more sign, I guess, that XRP is actually intended to be used. It's not really to be hoarded or to be traded. Now, it kind of puts XRP in people's wallets for everyday life, which is a pretty big deal for the adoption side of things. And it didn't stop there either. Ripple announced that with their new platform, Ripple Prime, it got a rebrand by the way, has actually launched spot crypto brokerage services in the United States. Now this is aimed at institutions and big players, and guess which two assets they actually highlighted over-the-counter trading, right? That was right, RLUSD and XRP. Right? Even in a fancy institutional product, right? XRP is still front and center. It's almost like Ripple is saying, we hear you, XRP community. We're still all in on XRP. Now, all of these moves, they are painting a picture that Ripple is expanding like crazy, buying companies, launching products, rebranding where they can, and it's putting XRP into those expansions. Now, the fear that they're abandoning XRP for something else is looking more and more unfounded, right? The fact, at least in fact, many community members who were anxious are now actually getting excited all over again, thinking Ripple's firing on all cylinders, and XRP, it is the fuel. Now, as an XRP holder watching all of this unfold, I got thinking about being prepared for anything. Now, this is a bit of a tangent, I will admit, but it is super important for anyone in crypto right now. You've got to have a backup plan. Specifically, have a backup exchange to use. Now, I've learned this from previous experiences. Remember when XRP got hit by the SEC lawsuit and suddenly a whole bunch of exchanges either delisted it or froze XRP trading? It was pure chaos. Now, if you only had your XRP on Exchange X and they halted your trading, you were kind of stuck. Well, I'm talking diamond hands, of course, because you have no choice but to be stuck in that situation. Now, I went through that turbulence, but fortunately, I had accounts on multiple different exchanges, so I had Plan B and Plan C ready to go. On one exchange, if one does shut down, for example, or maybe shuts down their withdrawals, it's not a problem because I have another one that is on standby. Ever since then, I do make it a point to sign up, KYC, and test out as many reputable exchanges as I possibly can. It's kind of like having multiple escape routes in a building. You hope you're never going to need them, of course, but if a fire breaks out, you're going to be glad that they are there. Now, personally, I do use a whole bunch of different crypto exchanges, big names like Binance, Coinbase, KuCoin, Kraken, and some newer ones too, like Blowfin and BitGet, among many, many others. Now, these are all platforms that I trust, with my funds and my trades, of course. And I do keep a list of all of these very handy, and I'll put a link in the description to my website down below, which lists all of the exchanges that I personally do use. Now, on the website, those are affiliate links that do support the channel here if you do sign up through them. But here's the thing, it won't cost you anything extra, it just gives a little commission back to the channel to help support me create these videos. More importantly though, if you use the links or not, it's always good to make sure that you've got some options open and, to see some other exchanges that maybe you haven't heard of before, but that I have vetted, because on my website, they are platforms that I genuinely do use. I don't list any old shit. Anyway, that's probably one of the reasons you will find that FTX is not there. We don't use that platform for the obvious reasons. Anyway, the bottom line is this. In crypto, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, or maybe even all of your coins onto a single exchange. You want to spread this out and be ready with backups, because you never know when an exchange might go down, freeze assets, or God forbid, do something crazy like FTX and go insolvent, taking your funds with them. So stay safe out there, guys. Okay, let's get back to the main story. Where does this leave us today? Well, after chasing this hidden XRP value rumor down the old rabbit hole, I came to a surprisingly satisfying conclusion. It's not actually about some secret number on XRP that will suddenly appear one day. No, it's actually about the real, tangible progress that is happening right now that could make XRP more valuable in the longer term. The SBI report quote that started all of this was, frankly, a little bit of a red herring, wasn't it? Right, it got us all excited, sure, but in the end, SBI was just being prudent with their own accounting. Now, they weren't, prophesizing XRP's price mooning or anything mythical like that, right? It's not secret treasure chest that was uncovered here. But by exploring it, we did end up, confirming something totally different, didn't we? Ripple has not forgotten about XRP. It's far from it. In fact, Ripple is actively investing in XRP's future, perhaps more visibly than ever before. It's almost poetic, right? We went looking for XRP's true value and found it in the dedication of the community and the company behind XRP. The true value isn't a single number waiting on an IPO. It's being built every day by day through use cases, trust, and commitment. Every new partnership, every new product that uses XRP, every statement from Ripple doubling down on their coin. That's the real value that is accruing here, slowly but surely. Will Ripple's IPO, whenever it happens, be a big moment for XRP? Well, very likely, yes. It could be a turning point. It could be like turning the lights on in a dark room. Suddenly, of course, everything would be clearer. How Ripple makes some money, how XRP circulates, absolutely all of it. And clarity can be a catalyst for investment. But until then, I'm not going to be holding my breath for a magical price reveal. XRP's market price will do its own thing, influenced by crypto trends, supply, demand, Ripple's moves, maybe even regulatory developments, with or without an IPO. One thing is for sure, I'm going to be watching to see if and when Ripple finally actually files those IPO papers, because you can bet that I'm going to be there, poring over all the documents, looking for any kind of nugget about XRP, and that I'm going to share anything that I find with all of you guys right here. The question is, what do you think? Is XRP's true value still really hidden, or is it staring us right in the face? Just waiting for more people to actually notice. I'd like to get your take on all of this, so do drop a comment down below or come and chat with us in our Discord server. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this little investigative journey with me, then don't forget to make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button for more stories just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.